In the heart of Africa, a single cub was born, carrying a color no lion should have and a destiny no lion could escape. This is how he survived, and how he became a legend. Asterisk the Timbavati region, its name whispered like a spell across. The plains of South Africa is a place where legends walk as surely as the wind moves the grass. But among all the tales born here, none is as enchanting, as heart-stirring, or as impossible as the story of the white lion, a creature so rare that many believed it existed only in myths, a creature whose fur shimmered like moonlight, whose presence stirred awe in every ranger, tracker, and animal that crossed its path, and whose journey from vulnerable cub to ruling male would be carved into the memory of the wild forever. This is the rise of the White Lion of Timbavati. Story of survival, a story of destiny, a story of a king. Asterisk 10. The prophecy of Timbavati. Long before our white lion took his first breath, the people native to this land carried an old belief, one passed down through generations: when the jungle needs balance, the white lion will return. To them, the appearance of a white lion was not a mistake of nature, not a genetic anomaly, but a sign, a message, a warning. Even modern researchers, those grounded in science, not stories, admit the rarity is breathtaking. White lions are not albino. Their eyes remain golden, their skin dark, their bodies healthy. They carry a recessive gene that hides in lion prides for decades, even centuries, before suddenly revealing itself. So, when a lioness in the northern fringes of Timbavati gave birth to a pale cub, the rangers knew something extraordinary had arrived. But extraordinary is often fragile, and the world does not make exceptions, even for legends. 9. Born a Tayer Jethade, the cub was born. The sun had barely risen. The air was cool, the grasses still heavy with dew. His mother, a lioness named Shira, gently licked the white fur of her newborn, blinking at him with a mixture of love and fear, because she knew what white meant. It meant visibility. It meant attracting rivals. It meant survival would be harder for both of them. Camouflage is a lion's greatest early weapon. Ordinary cubs blend effortlessly with the grasses. But this cub glowed. Even shaded beneath a thicket, he seemed to shine softly. Predators noticed. Hyenas circled from a distance. Vultures watched him like a fragile opportunity, and even within his own pride, the unusual color stirred unease. But Shira was determined. She stayed pressed against her cub, shielding him from the world with a fierce devotion, one that would define every step of his youth. The cub was named Imvula by the rangers, meaning rain, because his arrival, like rainfall in a drought, felt miraculous. 8. The first lesson, hide, or dia's Imvula grew stronger. His challenge became clearer. He could not disappear the way other cubs could, while the rest of the pride vanished like perfectly painted shadows. Imvula stood out like a ghost wandering among flames. His earliest lesson wasn't hunting, or playing, or roaring. It was hiding. Shira would guide him into deeper brush, while the rest of the pride lounged in the open. She used her own tawny body to block the sightlines of predators. When danger approached, she pushed him beneath a fallen log, then stood in front of it, daring anything to try their luck. Some nights, she didn't sleep at all, but her sacrifices paid off. Imvula survived his first month, then 2, then 3. And according to the laws of the wild, this made him one thing: a fighter, even before he knew what fighting meant. 7. A cub, who asked why Imvula was different in more ways than just color. Trackers noticed something else, something much more important. He was curious, almost too curious. While other cubs played in short bursts, Imvula would wander, staring at rivers for minutes at a time. He'd follow beetles, shadowbirds, study the wind. Rangers documented him approaching buffalo from distances no cub should dare, only to retreat the moment his instincts screamed danger. He wasn't reckless. He was thoughtful. There was intelligence in him, something sharp, something bright. One ranger described him in her journal as a cub who looks at the world as if he knows he will need every detail someday. And she was right, because every observation, every moment of awareness, would one day save his life. 6. The brother he could not keep. Imvula wasn't born alone. He had a brother, strong, brown-furred, fearless. If Imvula was the moon, the brother was the sun. They were inseparable. They slept pressed together, practiced their tiny roars, stalked grasshoppers, and pounced on each other with that clumsy, cub-like enthusiasm. But the wild is a place of constant hunger. One evening, as the pride slept, a rogue male lion approached. He was enormous, scarred, driven by instinct to eliminate cubs that weren't his. Shira roared. The pride defended, but the rogue pushed past them, locating the cubs with brutal precision. Only one survived. Imvula. The loss changed him. His playfulness dimmed. His curiosity turned sharper, more cautious. A flicker of sadness lingered in his golden eyes. Sadness he would carry into adulthood. But loss in the wild does more than break hearts. It builds kings. 5. Test of the RIV. At 8 months old, Imvula faced a challenge unlike any before: the river crossing. Drought had just ended. Water flowed fast and heavy, and the pride needed to reach the opposite bank where the herds had migrated. Most cubs hate water, but Imvula stared at the swirling current with a quiet, unblinking determination. Shira stepped in. Then the pride, And finally, the white cub. The water caught him immediately. His pale fur vanished beneath the surface. Shara roared, but this time she could not help him. The current dragged him farther, spinning him toward a bend where crocodiles often waded. For a moment Mvula disappeared completely. Only bubbles rose, then a small, soaked head emerged. He paddled with everything he had, fighting against the river, eyes wide, muscles trembling. He reached the far bank minutes later, exhausted, shaking, but alive. The pride gathered around him. Shira licked his face furiously, half in fear, half in relief. Trackers, watching from a distance, wrote, "This cub does not give up. He simply refuses." From that day forward, Mvula earned a new name among the rangers, the survivor. 4. The first roar of a future Kyanger on the age of 1 year. Young males begin to test their voices. Their roars crack, echo strangely, sometimes sounding more like coughing than dominance. But Mvula was different. One evening, as the sky burned with orange clouds, he climbed a small mound overlooking his pride. His chest expanded. He opened his mouth and the roar that came out startled everyone. It wasn't deep. It wasn't powerful, but it was clear, purposeful, focused, as if he were announcing something the world needed to hear. "I am here." The pride turned toward him in surprise. Even the dominant male stared at the pale cub for a long moment, something unreadable passing through his amber eyes. Perhaps curiosity, perhaps recognition, perhaps acceptance. Whatever it was, Mvula held the moment with quiet pride. It was the first time he looked like more than a survivor. He looked like a prince. 3. The shadow in the Every rise has a rival, and Mvula's rival came from the northern territories, a massive young male known as Kub, dark-maned, brutal, and feared even by seasoned rangers. He had been seen slaughtering hyenas, chasing leopards, challenging entire prides, and he was moving south, toward Shira's pride, toward the land Mvula called home. When lions migrate, it means only one thing, a takeover. And takeovers end in blood. Mvula was still young, barely learning to hunt, nowhere near strong enough to defend himself. If Kubu arrived now, the White Lion's story would end before it truly began. But the Wild had other plans. 2. Exile of the PRNC. When Mvula reached 2 years old, the time came for him to leave his pride, forced out by the dominant male, just as nature intended. All young males eventually go. They must wander, grow, and return only when strong enough to claim a territory of their own. But for Mvula, exile came early. Too early. The dominant male sensed the approaching threat of Kubu. He needed to secure the pride, tighten the ranks, and remove any weak links, including young males who drew attention. And bright as snow, drew attention from miles away. On a cold morning, the dominant male snarled, lunged, and drove him out. Shira tried to intervene, but the hierarchy of lions is absolute. Mvula left without protest. Without a roar, without looking back, he walked into the unknown, alone for the first time. And this was the beginning of his transformation. From cub to rogue to king. 1. The making of a legend. In this exile is where most young males break, but Mvula did not break. In the loneliness of the wild, he learned to stalk silently, relying on patience rather than power. He perfected the art of ambush. He grew leaner, stronger, sharper. He discovered that white fur, while dangerous in daylight, became an advantage under moonlight, where he blended almost perfectly with the silver glow. He became a ghost, a phantom, a hunter of the night. He stole kills from hyenas, chased off jackals, survived ambushes, endured storms, outwitted rivals stronger than him. Every battle carved him deeper into the shape of a king. And soon, the White Lion of Timbavati would return, not as a cub marked by fate, but as a ruler prepared to claim his throne. And so, from a cub born too bright for the shadows, to a wanderer shaped by loneliness, to a ruler forged in moonlight, Mvula, the White Lion, claimed his destiny. His roar now rolls across the plains of Timbavati like distant thunder, echoing the journey that brought him here, the losses, the trials, the nights he stood alone against a world determined to erase him. But still, he rose.